An ex-Foreign Legion officer, Galoup, played by the chameleonic Denis Lavant, once a chief master sergeant stationed in Djibouti, only to be court-martialed over his own actions fueled by an uncontrollable jealousy, reflects remorsefully on his past as he writes within his journal, specifically regarding the boiling resentment he felt towards a younger recruit, Gilles Sentain, a young man with a stoic, distant and yet heroic demeanour, an effortless cool expressed within each of his effortless actions. When Galoup's superior, the Commandant Bruno Forestier, a name alluding to Michel Subor's earlier role in Godard's Le Petit Soldat, expresses an admiration for the young Sentain, Galoup's resentment reaches a boiling point which will take him to the point of no return. This is Claire Denis' masterful Beau Travail, translated into Nice Work, a loose adaptation of Herman Melville's novella Billy Budd, and which implements elements from Benjamin Britten's opera based on the same novella for the film's own soundtrack. Beau Travail's attention to the vast desolate landscapes contrasted with the clearest of blue skies is bound to leave a distinct visual impression as the film blurs the memories of Galoup's past with his present-day disillusionment as a court-martialed ex-officer writing in his journal and stumbling through the streets of France. The way Galoup speaks of his remorse for his past actions, as well as the scenes of him in France, foreshadow a revelation of the action that cost him his respected position. As a man who deems himself to be unfit for civil society, he was clearly unfit for regimented life too. Beau Travail delivers an intense sensory portrayal of masculinity, verging on the homoerotic, the chiseled abs of intense workouts and militant training with a rhythm highly reminiscent to dancing, to ballet, and the piercing locked gazes of men filled with overwhelming tension, while also demonstrating examples of masculinity that can only be described as fragile. From Galoup's intense resentment towards Sentain, to scenes of soldiers unable to place aside their aggressions leading towards brutally violent fights, Claire Denis' observance of a fragile masculinity illustrates the dangerous consequences of such fragility, leading to a man's own downfall. What fuels such jealousy? Is it the fear of their status being taken away by a younger candidate? Is it based within sexual frustration and repression? Or is it a contribution of the two? One example of Galoup's fragility, demonstrated through his bubbling resentment towards Sentain, is during a scene when Galoup and Sentain prowl in a circular motion, locking eyes, becoming ever closer and closer, almost like the primal violent nature of two bucks locking antlers. While physical violence does not erupt here, the underlying battlefield between the two is undeniable, presented as if like a devastating ballet. Reinforcing Beau Travail's dance-like portrayals of militant training routine, Peter Bradshaw in his review of the film states that Claire Denis' film is a mesmeric, masculine ballet whose beauty and confident power manifested in lugubrious scenes which suspend the normal rules of narrative procedure, simply go beyond conventional ideas of transgression and homoeroticism. She choreographs various exercises and drills for Galoup and his comrades to act out. Some of these are normal workouts, but in a kind of hallucination of noonday mirage. They seem to become dance sequences and exotic tableaux. These happen either communally or in a kind of one-on-one confrontation between Sentain and Galoup. The tight choreography of these training sequences, which seem to imitate dances effectively, reflects the uniformity of regimented and disciplined military life. It's mesmerising to watch every stretch and every rhythmic stomp, which serves as a reason why Galoup was so fond of his time in the military, a sense of meaning earned through hard work and uniformity. Present-day Galoup, no longer in the military, aims to retain that sense of discipline within his personal life, demonstrated with the thorough effort he places in something as routine as making his own bed, just to capture a fraction of that meaning he has lost. Numerous times within the film, Galoup states that maybe freedom begins with remorse, alluding to his own actions directed towards Sentain, born from jealousy. This is a philosophical notion that, through remorse, through acknowledgement of one's own errors, a person can only be free of their mistakes after having faced the consequences of them, living with its impact. This is likely why Galoup writes his journal, a form of catharsis to assist in his movement forward through life, to cope with the meandering lack of meaning he must now live with. For Galoup, the Legion gave his life meaning, so much so that he refers to the Legion like a family, as if he were a shepherd guarding his flock. It's clear that the inability to continue his life within the military is a source of great devastation for Galoop, but knowing that it is his own action that has brought his downfall, as well as the intentional harm towards another soldier, also fills him with regret, as Galoop punishes a soldier for abandoning their post to prey, forcing the soldier to dig in the oppressive heat without water, kicking away Sentain's offer of his flask. Sentain challenges Galoop's delivery of injustice by punching the superior officer. Sentain, established as a soldier willing to put the needs of others before his own, demonstrated in his heroic action of saving a helicopter passenger after the vehicle had crashed into the sea practicing defensive maneuvers, saw it necessary to challenge Galoop's power corruption. Doing so may just have cost Sentain his life, as Galoop leaves Sentain stranded in the desert to walk alone without water. The dehydration is what leads Sentain close to death. It is during these sequences when it feels as if the viewer themselves can feel every ache under such a heated sun. There is only discomfort to be found here. Galoop's resentment comes to the forefront, as he clearly sought any reason to break Sentain. Galoop's dishonourable discharge was deserved, and the loss of direction he feels without the military provides enough time to contemplate the errors of his own actions. It would be impossible to forget the cruel action he performed, as the regimented discipline he learnt within the military still influences much of his personal life, from the formal and incredibly precise way he makes his bed, to the physical ease he has in climbing the tree beside his home. Everything in his present-day way of living triggers memories tainted by his own jealousy. The concluding scenes of Beau Travail are incredibly memorable, as Galoop lies in bed, gripping his gun, likely contemplating suicide. His life without the Legion must feel meaningless. A tattoo on his chest that states, "Serve the good cause and die," reinforcing the sense of a meaningless life outside of the Legion. There is a sense that Galoop feels finality is the way of overcoming his remorse, truly apologetic for his actions. The reminder of his earlier sentiment is bound to echo throughout every viewer. Maybe freedom begins with remorse. This is why the final scene stands out as a highlight. After acknowledging and coming to terms with the remorse surrounding his dishonourable actions towards Sentain, Galoop finds himself in a nightclub, a book ending with earlier images within the Djibouti nightclub scene, smoking a cigarette as Corona's The Rhythm of the Night plays, a Europop banger for sure, which leads into Galoop dancing memorably, erratically to his own beat. There seems to be a semblance, a fraction of Sentain's stoic cool within Galoop here, as his focus is on himself and his physical expression. The aggressive ferocity of his dancing connotes a pent-up frustration, but in dancing there is a sense of liberation. To dance like this has Galoop finally reached a sense of freedom through the remorse, as Galoop dances within the film's final scene, and the film occasionally reminds its viewer that maybe freedom begins with remorse. After all of Galoop's reflections of the past filled with regret, to watch as he dances indicates a celebratory catharsis. Having received his disciplinaries, and having reflected on where he went wrong, Galoop can now potentially move forward. He has begun his state of freedom. Where he goes next in life is up to him alone. In conclusion, Claire Denis' Beau Travail is a masterful reflection on the limitations of a fragile masculinity, of the consequences of jealousy, and the potential prospects of freedom through the acknowledgement of remorseful actions. A powerful mood piece filled with Agnes Goddard's phenomenal cinematography that captures the rhythm of homoeroticism, of military routine, and the stark contrast between Djibouti's bluest of blue skies and the muted colours of the ground. Stunning from beginning to end, Beau Travail is essential viewing. A special thank you to my super Patreon supporters Gail and Constantine Bombelli.